Okay, so let's get on with the show. Walter Parks.
Hello. How are you all tonight?
Very
Good. Thank you so much for being here. I'm going to do a couple of new things in the repertoire that I've never done. There's going to be some firsts, so I'm using my notes here. I brought the banjo because I live here and never travel with this banjo, so that'll be a little special. I think I'm going to play this one first.
she's dressing like she's going to Hollywood. Oh yeah. I'm not talking about Hollywood, Florida now. If you shake it all night, please keep the lid on tight. Suspicious by the smell of her hair. How did old Spice end up way down there? Oh yeah. I guess I should say, yeah, shake it all night, keep the lid on tight. All right. Like that mason jar in grandma's house. If you wanna keep your jelly fresh, you gotta keep the fungus out. If you shake it all night, keep the lid on tight. All right. Well, let me back up. Actually, I didn't say a proper hello or anything. Most of y'all know who I am. I'm Walter Parks, and I'm originally from Jacksonville, Florida. Live here now, and the fellows who are helping me set up and everything, they said that there is a phenomenon that of women growing up in St. Louis and going elsewhere and finding a man and bringing them back to St. Louis. And it happened to me. I'm from Florida. But she found me in New York City at Starbucks of all places. But I'm happy she did. And it's great. One of the benefits of living up the road a piece, as we say down south, is that I can bring things like my old banjo out. And I just really want to show you this. I never take this on the road. And the reason I said let me back up is because I build this on the marquee, if you will. It says that this is going to be about music from the Okefenokee Swamp. But I just wanted to start the show in a little bit of a reverse order. That is music that I wrote, those first two songs. And when I moved to New York City, where I met my wife, people kept noticing this swampy vibe in my playing. And at a certain point, since I was an artist and I had moved to New York to kind of find my own voice, I just started to accept that I had that in my style. And instead of running from it, I'm like, okay, I surrender. I've got this swampy vibe. So the reason why I play with that kind of, it's just a swampy thing, is because of where I grew up. And you know what happens is you run from your roots for a while and then you come back. And at least musically and creatively, I have come back to where I grew up, and I've started to dig in deep into why I sound the way I do, and what about where I grew up makes other people down there sound the way they do. And so I'm going to take you on a little bit of the journey of the music of the swamp. And the swamp, when I say the swamp, it can mean a lot of different things to different folks. There's the Great Dismal Swamp in Virginia. There's the what's the big one? The Everglades down in South Florida. But the swamp where what I think of as a swamp is the Okefenokee Swamp in southeast Georgia and a little bit in the northeast Florida. That's where I used to camp, freeform camp all the time. You can't do it anymore. So I'm gonna play a lot of what used to be played out in the swamp, and there's different types of folks through the ages that have lived out there. And I went down there right after the COVID hit, and I took the banjo. I had just started doing some research. I found it's crazy that you can find anything sort of unique or untouched in this day and age. But I found a little trove of music in the Library of Congress that had never been, it had been heard, but I don't think anybody done anything with it. And so I started writing out this music. And it was music that people were making on violins, fiddles, and violins. I could get just arrested for using the word violins down in the swamp. So anyway, so they make. There were people who came from the Appalachian sort of realm, and there were people who, as I'm going to share with you tonight, there were folks who worked on the railroads that came in from Mississippi. There were black folks, there were white folks. Everybody was out there, and for different reasons. And it created a very interesting type of music, a spin on Southern music. And I have a theory, and I hope to maybe show you why, that Southern rock, which is the music that came from where I grew up, is what it is because of the influence of a lot of black folk in the swamp. Nobody talks about it, but if you think about a lot of those Southern rock tunes, they have a funkiness to them. And they have a funkiness combined with that country thing. So we'll get to all that later. But anyway, this time last year, no, it was a year and a half ago, I went to the swamp, and I had been studying some music that I heard in the Library of Congress, and I wanted to take this banjo down there and sort of just see what the old homesteaders down there, see what the vibe would give me. So anyway, I took this thing down there. Have y'all been to St. Augustine, Florida before? Anybody been down there? It's a tourist town, I don't know, an hour and a half south of the Okefenokee. And the reason, let's see, I'm not even going to take this thing off because I'm not going to play this that long. But actually, I probably should. But anyway, I just had this thing restrung today, so it's misbehaving. I can't really play the full song. So anyway, the rangers out there know me. They know my research, and I'm talking about the Okefenokee Swamp. There's an old homestead that's been there for 100 years, and I asked them if I could go out there and record. I wanted to record this banjo on the old front porch, and partly what I wanted to do was to record the sound of stomping on the front porch. That's that. It's a recording of me on that front porch, which I was able to do. But anyway, so I'm sitting here, and it's July, and I'm playing this song that came from the Okefenokee Swamp, and it's something like this. So I'm playing that, and then all of a sudden I look up, and there's now, this is in the COVID now. And there's a tour bus. I'm in the middle of the swamp on an island out there, but you can drive up to one of these. It's one of the side islands. There's a tour bus that stopped, and everybody's taking pictures of me. They think that I'm. This is the reason I ask you about St. Augustine. They think that I'm a prop. You know, I'm out there to do research. I'm trying to just. I was hoping nobody would see me. I had microphones and people start clapping, and there's the clicking of the cameras. Some of the guys had the old school film cameras, and they're asking me when the tour begins and all of this stuff, and the bugs were terrible. It was so hot. It was in July. I grew up down there. I couldn't tolerate it, and I just realized that somebody from the ranger station had sent them down to me, and they thought that it would be a great idea. But I was trying to make tapes for the Library of Congress. Now they ended up, if you go to my special, just Google Walter Parks Library of Congress, you'll see me playing this banjo. But that was after about 50 tries to get that right and to get everybody to be quiet. Because they thought I was, they wanted to just get into the music. I was like, no, we have to be completely quiet. This is going to be in the Library of Congress forever. And they just didn't get it because they were there. They probably the next step was St. Augustine. And but anyway, so I'm gonna play the song that I put together. But this swamp music research stuff has been very interesting. I'm not gonna talk all night, but I just because I did this banjo thing, I wanted to give you a little background. But I read in one of the books. There's only 3 books about the Okefenokee Swamp. And I read that there was this mysterious song called Catfish. And if you were a banjo picker of any degree, you had to be able to, your measure was to be able to play Catfish. The problem was there was no recording of Catfish. It was only the lyrics of Catfish. So I looked everywhere. I looked in different archives in different states all around the South. Finally, I found an old recording from a family called the Poplin Family Singers in Charleston, South Carolina. And they were playing it, and it matched what they were singing, matched the Okefenokee. Said, I've got it. And so I put it together, and I just recorded it. And so I'm going to play it for you now best I can. So here we go. See that catfish going upstream, mouth of the butter, give it a grip. Caught that catfish by the snout, turn that catfish inside a muggy. Banjo sound, mommy, banjo sound. sand. It's a tricky one. Thank you. I love playing that, and I just recorded that with a buddy of mine. His name is Rob Curto, and he was originally scheduled to be on this event, but he had to back out of it a couple of months ago. I can't remember why, but anyway, maybe we'll come back to town at some point, and it's a nice little EP that we just released. It's called. We're combining kind of Irish and Scottish reels with my swampy thing, so we call it the Swampalachian Trail. Which reminds me, PJ, we still got to do the trail one of these days. I'm running out of time. I mean, I've got time, hopefully. I'm just running out of ability to pull it off. But I want to. Even though I grew up in that neck of the woods, southeast Georgia, northeast Florida, my wife and I had to listen to the lyrics of this song from the Okefenokee Swamp maybe 40 times before we could figure out what the guy was saying. And it was a thick Georgia accent. And when he recorded this song, which I'm going to do my own version of, he was like a 14-year-old boy, 15 or something like that. By reading one of the books on the Okefenokee, I was told by a professor who wrote the book, he said, you know, Walter, and by the way, this man he invited me to lunch in his house in Statesboro, Georgia, fine southern spread. He said, Walter, you know that child, that boy on that tape, he's still alive. And I can put you in touch with him. And sure enough, he had left the swamp, become a bank president in the middle of Georgia, in a town, and he wrote. I wrote him and told him about my project. And he wrote me back in real scribbled hand. His name was Wade Chesser, and he said, I'm sorry, I can't help you with your research project. I'm too old and too feeble. And it was just scribbling on the letter, but I cherish it because he says, I can't for the life of me understand why you're traveling around playing these hollers and this swamp music for people as entertainment. We thought of this as just practical communication. And, you know, they would call the hogs, they would go out hunting for 2 or 3 days, and when they came back from a hunt, you couldn't just come up on a house with no notice. It was dangerous. You know, you had to have your holler. And everybody had their own holler, and they knew, okay, Wade's coming, Bill's coming, whatever. And that's just the way it worked. But the notion to this old Georgia man that I was going around in auditoriums and all over the world and singing these hollers, he just couldn't fathom it. And he was encouraging, but it was just puzzling to him. So this was a song that they introduced on the old. They took I'm trying to think of the word. It was the beginning era of records, and they borrowed some recording equipment from the Library of Congress, and I'm still dealing with the Library of Congress, and they cut records out in the Okefenokee Swamp, and it was battery powered. So they had about 30 minutes to do these records, and then they'd have to go into Folkston, Georgia, and repower the batteries. Can you imagine the dedication? And I'm very indebted to them. So here's one of the songs, and I hope you like it. It's Starts with a holler and then goes into what they call one of the old-fashioned songs. Well, I'm going nowhere, Jack. I got a banjo on my back, and it ain't nobody's business but mine. Well, I thought upon my faults. I'm gonna break till I get strong. And it ain't nobody's business but mine. Oh, it ain't nobody's business but mine. When I'm going to my death, no one's on my path. No, it ain't nobody's business but mine. No, it ain't nobody's business. No, it ain't nobody's business. No, it ain't nobody's business but mine. Wrong guitar. Anyway, ain't nobody's business but mine. And they said it was one of the old-fashioned songs. And I got to thinking, I've heard that somewhere. Where have I heard that? Turns out that was one of the first recorded blues songs ever done, and that came from the Mississippi Delta region. That was not Okefenokee. And how the heck did it get there in those early days? Was it just by word of mouth? And at one point, this is not established science, but I'm going to have fun with this theory anyway. I saw a photo, and there's only one photo that I've found in the Okefenokee that's fairly contemporary that documents the presence of black folk in the Okefenokee Swamp. And they were working to lay the tracks for the railroad when the Okefenokee Swamp was completely shaven bare of the cypress trees. It was a huge business from 1900 to about 1920. And they took all the cypress trees out of there. But the black folk laid the railroad tracks. And I'm wondering if that's where some of these tunes, these bluesy tunes, came from. And that's my research project that I'm on right now. I just have a hunch of that. And I think I'm probably right. And I want to play for you a song that was very likely sung out there at that time under those conditions. Why? Because it was also sung and recorded at the very same time from the 1920s to 1900 to the late 20s, when I'm blanking on his name, Alan Lomax and the Lomax family went to Mississippi and recorded the prison workers and the railroad workers and the convict labor folks. It was a horrible situation, but they recorded these guys doing what they call work songs. And they were laying pieces of railroad track, and they'd hit that rail in unison so that long piece of heavy rail would move and when they all struck it at the same time. And they would sing certain songs. These were work songs. And this song was one of the ones that Alan Lomax recorded in Mississippi. And I would love to find out if it got sung in the Okefenokee, but I don't know that I'll ever find that. Hold on a second. This guitar isn't too much of a happy tuning for this occasion. I think we got it. There we go. So this is a work song that came from the Mississippi Delta, early 30s, early in the morning. Well, it's early in the morning, when I rise, Lordy Mama, you know I got a misery burning in my right side of me. Oh, it's early in the morning, when I rise, Lordy Mama, you know I have a misery burning in my right side of me. Well, who she never told her, he told her dirty lie. Well, the eagle on the dial on the corner is gonna rise and shine. Well, oh, who she never told her, he told her dirty lie. Well, the eagle on the dial on the corner is gonna rise and fly. Well, oh, oh, oh. Takes rocks and gravel to make a solid road. Well, takes rocks and gravel to make a solid road. Rocks and gravel, rocks and for better or for worse, this I'm playing what I believe is part of the soundtrack to the making of this country. You know, in some ways it's a tormented story, but in others it led to where we are now, and I'm very, very proud to be playing this American music, and let me tell you, they love this stuff in Europe. They just, when I go over there, it's sad in a way, because I feel like it's not almost as appreciated as much in the States. I mean, we're here and we appreciate it, but I kind of sometimes I find myself just wanting to just yell out on the street, "Do you know this music? This is amazing music." And you know, of course, you know, I feel like the guy who paints the little miniatures or something, I just, not everybody appreciates that he or she paints those little miniatures, and it's just the way it is. We have these passions, but my mission is to play this music, both sides of the picture. I'm gonna play the music that convict laborers were making. It wasn't really to them music. Believe me, when you hear those original recordings, that was gosh, and the guys are sweating and they're moaning and that rail is moving. It wasn't kind of beautiful the way I made it sound. But I'm trying to give this stuff a new life and make people a little curious about the stories behind it, because that's what some of the British rock and roll guys did for me, like The Who and Eric Clapton. I didn't know anything about Mississippi Delta music when I was a kid. I had to find that out from some English guy in Royal Albert Hall. What the hell, but I'm glad I found it out. And it made me more curious, and I looked into it just like I'm doing this. And so, anyway, it's here's one that is, in my opinion, the best version of a holler in the Okefenokee. It was called they labeled it as the coming home holler, but it is a coming home holler of sorts, in that it would be used as an announcement when a gentleman came through the woods after having been gone for a while. But it was recorded in the piney woods of southeast Georgia, out there in the swamp. Now, let me back up and tell you this is important. It said on the poster this was going to be a concert, but it feels more like a class or something. I'm sorry. I'm just trying to give you some of the background of this stuff. By the way, this is all going to make sense, but it could, if you like the sound, could you all please applaud Eric for he's the sound person tonight. I asked Eric to do some fairly weird things. I mean, I'm up here with an acoustic guitar, and I've got all these effects and things and two amplifiers, and he was like, "Whatever you want, man, just whatever." And he was great, and I didn't know how this was going to go here. I didn't know how strict acoustic y'all were going to be, but thank you, Eric, for your flexibility, and thank you for giving me what I call showbiz, which is that long reverb sound. When I do those hollers, Eric gives me plenty of showbiz. So the reason I want showbiz on my voice is because I listen to these original recordings in the Library of Congress, and they had this reverb. Can you, Eric, just demonstrate it for a second? So, yeah. Okay, so they have that sound in back of it. Now, these recordings were done in 1941. They didn't have these fancy effects back then. And I went out to the ranger station at the Okefenokee and I said, "What's with that sound?" She goes, "It's the pine trees." Now, on the islands in the Okefenokee, for the most part, there's no cypress trees. Maybe on the edges, but you're from above. They found the islands because they would, when they were originally trying to explore the Okefenokee, they would get spikes on their heels, go to the highest point, the highest trees they could, and find spots in the Okefenokee where there were pine trees because they knew that's where the islands were. So the islands is where a lot of times they would record these hollers. And there's some kind of an effect. It sounds like a cathedral in France or something. It's just this long reverb effect because there's no underbrush to speak of. It's just, there's underbrush, there's palmettos, but the pine trees are weird there. They don't have any under branches. They just have branches at the very top. So you've got all these, it's a forest of toothpicks. And it's probably because they get burned out, the natural fires and so on. But it contributes to this effect. So hence the showbiz that Eric has given me. And I had an assistant go out there, and he got about half a mile away from me with a battery-powered microphone, and I did a holler, and it sounded just like these things. So anyway, so this next song is one that I wrote. Now, the story goes, as told by William Bartram, who was originally a colonist, and he ended up working. At first, he serviced some of the plantations and checked on them on the East Coast for the Crown. But he wrote a little bit about the Okefenokee, and he said in his book Travels that occasionally a slave would escape the plantations on the Georgia coast and head to the Okefenokee Swamp. Why? Because they were trying to get to freedom, but they were going south. But at a certain point, 2 times, Florida was Spanish. So if you could cross the St. Mary's River, you could get freedom. But you couldn't cross the St. Mary's River, which is the dividing line in that part of the state between Florida and Georgia. You couldn't cross where I-95 is now because it's too big. You could be seen. So you had to head into the swamp where the river was narrow, but then you had to contend with alligators and moccasins and everything. So given this folk tale, I have written my own story, a story of hope, that this runaway slave came to the swamp and he was trying to figure his way out of there. It's almost impossible. He was trying to figure his way across the St. Mary's, and he hears a guy hollering. So that the slaves used to come into the Okefenokee is true. Whether or not he heard a white man hollering and the white man helped him get across the St. Mary's, that we can only hope. But this is a song that starts with a authentic Okefenokee holler, and then it goes into my song, Georgia Rice. Yeah. holler from a mile away. I thought he ain't a party to the search, and I prayed. Hound dog tracking back the road of peace. He liked to drown me smacking to the Okefenokee. There's a damn good bounty when the slave break free. And you're gonna catch hell if you shelter me. I'm out looking for the Saint Marie. I'm gonna wade in the water and she set me free. So I'll take my chance with the poison snake, 'cause the master won't hang the good money I can make. He crossed the line of what a man can take. Turn a man from a bottom, to clean him up nice, head him straight to battle from the Georgia riots. Don't you wonder what I come up from under? Don't know how, but it's all the same. I gotta take my vow to the Queen of Spain. Don't you wonder what I come up from under? Folks can't figure why a man of God would risk his deed of granted sod. For a slave out looking for the Saint Marie, he aimed to wade in her waters and set him free, and cross the line of what a man can be. Turn a man from a chattel and you clean him up nice, hit him straight to battle from the Georgia riots. Don't you wonder what I come up from under? Don't know how, but it's all the same. I gotta take my vow to the Queen of Spain. Don't you wonder what I come up from under? When the slave break free, but you're gonna catch hell if you shelter me. I'm gonna cross the line of what a man can be. You might catch hell, but they won't catch me. Thank you. Thank you. That was Georgia Rice, and started off with the Piney Woods Holler, done by Tom Chesser. I'm going to tell you what I think is a torturous, funny story about research. I know I'm talking a lot. I'm sorry, but I mean, it's okay, I guess. You know, this guy was, when he recorded his holler, he was the head of the household. I mean, he was a farmer. He was a hunter. And he was 40 years old or thereabouts. He could hit notes that I'm sure I couldn't hit when I was 16 years old. And I'm trying to hit these notes. I mean, first of all, he's in the key of, I did that song in G. And I think he's in B, so. And he goes, way higher, way higher. And I'm like, what's going on? And so the first time I gathered this research was from a library in Statesboro, Georgia. The next time I went and visited the American Folklife collection in Washington, they actually sent me a tape of this same holler. And lo and behold, it's down in my key, in G. And all the while, that recording that was originally made was sped up. So I'm blowing out my vocal cords, trying to learn this thing. And this guy, and I'm thinking, I went down to the Okefenokee after this, and I'm like, this guy's my hero. He's 40 years old, and he's singing up there like higher than a 15-year-old kid. It's amazing. And all the Georgia guys are going, yeah, that was Tom for you. And I don't think they were trying to fool me. They just didn't know that he was, under helium or something, But the helium was that record player going fast. But anyway, I found a corrected version of it, and I felt so redeemed, so to speak. Yeah. But that's where research on these sorts of things can lead you. You go down these creeks, if you will, and there's a source in the creek, so there's really a dead end, and you have to go all the way backwards and start again. I'm going to play two more songs this set. I've talked so much. This is almost a full-length concert, and I promise I'm a 45-minute set. So I'll do one song, one more song here. This is the last of my Okefenokee series, and then we'll take a break, and then I'll play another set. This is one that I hope I get a chance to have Evie come up and do some clogging on this and Catfish, but this is my freshest Okefenokee song. As a matter of fact, I've never played it live before, and it's really tricky because it's a fiddle song, and I love trying to translate what one instrument can do to the guitar. Well, it's not that the instrument does it to the guitar, but it does it to me. I can tell you that. I'm trying to translate it. I mean, what a fiddle can do, and those little accents and those little ghost notes and all that, it's really hard to play that stuff on a guitar. And then it's in a totally different tuning. So I've spent weeks trying to figure this out. I don't quite have it, but I'm gonna play it anyway because I believe that's how the old Swampers would have done it. Just play it. And it's a song called Hollerin' Joe, but I don't believe any of the titles anymore because there's no hollering on this record at all. So I'm going to call it Fiddlin' Joe. And it's a song, best I can tell through the Georgia accent, about this guy who they find him in the middle of the road. And he's forlorn, and his lady or wife has left him, but almost as a consolation, they remind him, you still have your fiddle and your bow, and it's like that Jimi Hendrix song. Whoa, wait a minute, the locks have been changed. That's okay, I still got my guitar, and got this pedal that it sounds like a Tibetan monks or something. I'm gonna take that off for this song. There's no Tibetan monks at all on this original recording. So, oh my gosh, I'm just asking for your forgiveness. Maybe I do need the Tibetan monks back because I'm gonna mess this up. I know I am. knows about Joe from the middle of the road. Oh, Joe, everybody knows a woman done left you, but you still got your fiddle and bow. Fiddle and bow. Everybody knows the wife done left you, but you still got your fiddle and that was all right. I mean, first time I played it, I'm happy with that. You know, I didn't completely blow a tire. It was all right. Am I to your liking so far tonight? Yeah. All right. Well, any normal concert, they'd be saying good night, everybody, because I've talked so much. But let's just take a break. And those of you who are tired of me, there's 2 doors there. You can go away. And but if you'd like more, what I've got is a couple of Swamp things, and then mostly songs that the Swamp has inspired. I've got a lot of interesting things worked up for you. Some of them are mine. I've got a hit from 1861 that I'm going to play for you, and some other things. I'll just leave it as a surprise. But well, let's have wine or whatever we need to do now, and then I'll see you in whenever I'm supposed to be back up. Just a couple of minutes. Thank you so much. Thank you. I have I think a good idea as a special treat for the end of this set. I'm not going to play too long, maybe 5 songs or so, and but you know, I was speaking on the break with a couple of folks about research and how you go down rabbit holes sometimes, just and dead ends, just trying to. You think you're on to something, you know, and boy, you just waste a lot of time. But in this one, and I played hell trying to find that song "Catfish," as I told you, and I I thought I had it, and I worked up this arrangement of this song, and it was a cool version, and I was playing it in Asheville, North Carolina. Hey, dude. And Asheville is a town of like neo-hippies, you know. It's like going back in time to the 67 or something. And a young woman came up to me when I played it. She goes, no, she says, you said that might be from the Deep South. That's a Jerry Garcia song. That's a Grateful Dead. You know, and it humbled me. It actually more than humiliated me actually. And I thought, geez, I got to be careful with this. This was before I got into the Library of Congress, so I got my act together, and I was a little bit more cautious about ascribing a source to a particular piece of music. But anyway, the song, as it turned out, is a song called Catfish, but it's called Catfish John. And at that point, I had only heard it instrumentally, and different little clues sent me to it. Some fiddlers in West Virginia were playing it, and I thought, okay, maybe I'm onto it, and I was wrong. But anyway, I kept the song, and I just recorded it on that same disc that I put Catfish on, and so I'm gonna show you a version of what I found when I was accused of playing a Grateful Dead song. Mama said, don't go near that river. Don't be hanging around no Catfish John. Come the morning, I'd always be there, walking in his footsteps in the sweet Delta dawn. Catfish John. Footsteps in the sweet Delta dawn. Catfish John was a river hobo living down by the water's edge. I'm so glad I got to know him. Well, I'm proud to call him my friend. Hanging around Catfish John. Come the morning, I'd always be there, walking in his footsteps in the sweet Delta dawn. He was born a slave in the town of Vicksburg, traded for a chestnut mare. Never spoke in anger, but his load was hard to bear. Oh, Mama said, don't go near that river. Don't be hanging around no Catfish John. But come the morning, I'd always be there, walking in his footsteps in the sweet Delta dawn. morning into a day long ago, to the sweet magnolia blossom. The cotton fields were white as snow. Mama said, don't go near that river. Don't be hanging around old Catfish John. But come the morning, I'd always be there, walking in his footsteps in the sweet Delta dawn. Woo! Almost got that one. I'm actually doing a lot of new stuff tonight, and just that's a tricky thing too. It's I feel like I'm trying to cover the bass part and the violin part and the banjo part, and it's so fun. And I'm just a lot of this stuff is a work in progress because, like I said, I know the people out in the swamp or the people who used to live there, and they just, you know, you just go for it and you got what you got. And I'm always trying to. There's so much research to be done on the music that came out of there. There's a lot of stuff to work on, and I'm really enjoying doing it. This was one that was sung. I haven't spoken. There were three types of music that the homesteaders sang out there in the swamp. They sang the Appalachian style stuff. They sang. They also sang the hollers, of course, and they sang hymns, shaped note hymns. And we haven't really delved into that in tonight's show. So I'm going to sing one that was a hit in 1861. And this was the soundtrack song to the movie Cold Mountain. There was a brutal scene where I think the Union Army had blown a big hole down near Petersburg, or somebody one side or the other had blown the hole, and the soldiers were down in that hole, and I think the Confederates just had their way with them on that particular day in Petersburg. And this is the music that they play underneath this. And if you really listen to that music, go home and YouTube it. It's done in a church, and you can hear people stomping a little bit on that church floor, but you can picture that church. And this, people would get in groups of four. If there were just four in the family who could sing, they would all face each other. There's a little space in the middle. But in a church, there's a leader and a person who keeps everybody in rhythm. So I took this song, the original shape note arrangement for it, made for human voices, and I translated it to guitar best I could. And it never sounds as cool as it does as it manifested in the human voice, but it is an interesting way of doing it. And so this is one called Idumea, Am I Born to Die? No joke, this was sung by a lot of the soldiers during the Civil War. Well, am I born to die, to lay my body down, and must Watched my trembling spirit fly into a world unknown. A land of deepest shade, unpierced by human thought, the dreary regions of the dead, where all things are forgotten. And so from earth I go, what will become of me? Eternal happiness, oh, must then my portion be. Eternal happiness, oh, must then my portion be. Throughout time, it doesn't matter the era, everybody's wondering what happens in the great beyond, you know? And this next song has absolutely nothing to do with the Okefenokee Swamp. Please forgive me, but I'm going to break protocol and play a Beatles song right now. Because it doesn't, this song is one of those songs that I always think of on a starry night. If I'm camping out on the Okefenokee and I look up, and I bet some of you can guess what I'm getting ready to play. It's just one of those songs that make you. It puts everything in perspective, the smallness of what we are, the insignificance, and yet, you know, you realize that we all individually have power. And this is one of those songs that just makes me feel good to be alive. And I want to play this for you. So my point is, doesn't matter if it's 1861 or if it's 1970 when this was probably written. We're all trying to figure it out and search and find our orientation. Oh, okay. So. Yeah, right. And a great song to play for something that you can't do much about. So I'm gonna come over here for a second. I hope you like this. across the universe. And I can't wait to go to the Okefenokee. My next trip out there is going to be next week, and I put in a request for an overnight camp. I don't know if they'll be able to let me do that, but I want to record the sounds of the night, and hopefully on my follow-up trip, I'm going to go out there with a good buddy, Nate Townsend, and we're going to film out there at the sky. And on the East Coast, at least, y'all can get this by just going a little far west from here. But in the East Coast, there's nothing that really displays the grandeur of the heavens in that sense, like the Okefenokee Swamp, because it's 650 square miles of nothing. And occasionally you'll see a plane fly into the Jacksonville airport, but outside of that, it's just wonderful at night. So I'm hoping to do a film of that and some hollers and maybe play this song under it in a video later. I'm going to play one more song that's in the modern era, that's not from 1861. And this is a tribute to the group Procol Harum. It is a spiritual of sorts, and we lost Gary Brooker last week, who was the singer of Procol Harum, and he sang this marvelous song that everybody knows. And one of these days, I'm going to put this on a record called Songs I'm Sick Of. Because I love the song, but there was a point that I just got so sick of this song because you heard it all the time, many times a day. And so the record, I've already recorded this, and it's on my record Cathedral, which we have. But when I take a song that I'm sick of, so to speak, and roll up my sleeves and say, I'm going to just try to figure out things about it that I never saw the first time. And it's a wonderful little exercise. And I think you can do this with no matter what. If it's a book you've read and you don't like it, or a person, most importantly, a person, somebody that you're kind of sick of, and you've had too much of, and you just kind of can do this little exercise of just approaching them from a different angle or doing things that you've never done with them before, whatever, trips, y'all figure it out, but you get my point. And it works with songs, and I fell in love with the song again. And so just from being sick of it once. And this is, I'm not going to tell you what it is. You guys probably already know what it is, but. Skip the life and jingle, turn cartwheels across the floor. I was feeling pretty seasick. The crowd called out for more. The room was humming harder, and the ceiling flew away. We called out for another drink. The waiter brought a tray, and so it was that later, as the miller told his tale, that the face at first just ghostly turned to white. She'd up pale. She said there was no reason. The truth is plain to see. So I stumbled through my playing cards. People I just could not let her be. One of the 16 Vestal Virgins who were leaving for the coast. close, and so it was. Then later, as the miller told his tale, that her face at first just ghostly turned to whiter shade of pale. Thank you. Thanks. You don't hear that done on guitar too much. It's a tricky thing. It was originally, the music to that is a Bach tune, and it comes from the Baroque era, and yet Procol Harum took that in 1969. Gary Brooker, the singer on it, who just passed away, made did a fantastic version of it, and has inspired fellas like me and musicians all over the world to kind of take some older music and try to do something contemporary with it. That's what I've tried to do with the swamp music. And I'm going to do maybe two more songs. I will say that this next one is a spiritual because of my work with the Okefenokee and delving into hymns and then some of the African American music, like early in the morning. That led me to some of the spirituals. And that opened up a whole new world for me because I realized how dependent upon the spirituals rock and roll music was. You know, bands like Deep Purple and The Who and all of that sort of thing. And also from hymns. Those old English hymns that were sung in the big house while people were working out in the fields. Eventually some of this music started to mix together, and it was a horrible story, the background of it all, but it created this wonderful music that we now call American music. It gave birth to blues and jazz, which this city knows very well. But frankly, I'm just so proud to be playing this music because it is American music, except for the whiter shade of pale. And across the universe. I have diverted there, but nonetheless, this is one that I'm going to dedicate to Richie Havens. Now, Richie Havens was my boss, so to speak, for 10 years. I traveled around the world with him. Most of y'all who know me know this. And Rich, if Rich is here, Rich is my neighbor. This is the guitar that I've been talking about that was Richie Havens' guitar. It's a 1967 Guild. So this was around during the Woodstock time. I'm pretty sure he didn't play this. It was not in the movie, at least. It might have been a spare. But he probably recorded his first record, Mixed Bag, on this because it was the same year. It came out. This was made in that same year. So anyway, I'm going to do a Richie Havens song. He pulled from the spirituals in his time of need. And a lot of people don't know this. Do you know who this? Y'all know who Richie Havens is, right? Yeah, okay. He was the first guy to play at Woodstock. Well, what's not talked about, and I know this because I toured with Richie for 10 years. I think part of the reason why Richie was the first guy to go on at Woodstock was two reasons. And they have really nothing to do with music. Although he was great, and it made sense that he started it. But two reasons. He was always crazy punctual. Richie was way earlier than he needed to be to anything, everything. When he came to St. Louis to be at our wedding, he was here 2 hours early, sitting in the church in Webster, and so that was just how he was. And the other thing is, he was like, if you need me to do something, yes. He was a can-do guy. He never gave anybody any lip, never belly ached about it. If they needed him to do something, he was going to do it. He was there because at the end of the day, Richie knew that the people were going to be the recipients of him saying yes. And he cared most about his audience. So when none of the other musicians could get to Woodstock because they were in traffic, when they were all just sitting on the New York Thruway, Richie was there and ready. And they said, Richie, we need somebody to play. And he said, sure, I'll do it. And he played for a whole, 2 hours or something. And then he came off. He said, I'm done. Everybody was cheering. And he said, the next band's still not here. We need one more. They're out on Highway 17. We need one more song. We know where they are. They're close. And so he went out there and pulled from his roots, just like I pulled from mine tonight. Pulled from the Okefenokee. He pulled from Motherless Child. He had always heard that spiritual around the house. And then he combined that. He just wove that around a song that he made up on the spot called Freedom. So, in the spirit of Richie, and thanks to him for taking me around the world and just showing me how to cover songs and that kind of thing, I want to do a version of Freedom here. So I probably don't need showbiz on my voice on this one. So, all right. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Alone. Thank you. We're going. Me and my ego. I did have another person in mind that wasn't inside of here. We're going to try something now. We're all going to try something. I was talking with Evie in the audience about maybe doing some clogging. And she's going to go out on a limb because her, what's that body part called? The ankle. The ankle is not, it's healing right now, but she thinks she can do it. And since she's going out on a limb, I am too. Now, don't leave. I know that I risk the house emptying when I pick up a banjo, but hold on a second. So let's end the night with this improv here. I think she's got enough room here to work with. So Evie Hemphill. Evie Hemphill. Are you okay, Evie? Okay. I think she winced when I said one more. I haven't seen that reaction since I left New York, and I would say one more, and my drummer would give me that same sort of look. Thank y'all so much for coming. I'm gonna do one more to just say goodbye on just something quick and short, and that's gonna be it, I guess. I've so much enjoyed playing here. This is it's a little quick song that I wrote when the COVID hit us. As a matter of fact, we are here because of the not we, but me and what's in here. We, as in me, my wife and I, are here because of family, because of the COVID. We we came here in March of 2020 for a memorial, and the COVID hit, and so we just stayed. And there was a necessity to help out with Margot's parents, and we're so glad that we could do that. And you know, everybody was trying to figure out, well, what do we do now? Like, well, what do we do with ourselves? And there was this, I don't know about y'all, but there was a time there, like almost for 2 months, where I hate to say, but I kind of liked it, you know? I kind of liked just not having, it wasn't that we didn't have to go to work. Some of us worked, but we didn't put that same kind of pressure on ourselves. We just let ourselves just be, just for that moment. And I want to let y'all know that I am going to the Okefenokee next week, and I'm going to interview the brother of the man who wrote me back. He's 90 years old, and he's agreed for the second time to sit down with me. And I don't want to find out from him about how they boiled the hog skin and how they killed the deer and all that, because there's a special way you do it out in the Okefenokee, and that's all fine. They know, all those guys know how to do that, and we can find out about that in the hunting books. I want to know, how did he endure that nothingness, in a sense? I mean, there's plenty to do, and I don't mean that in a disparaging way, but compared to the stimulation we have now, how did they do that? How did they, you know, how was that okay with them? It's incomprehensible to my modern mind to just think, well, you know, you've got to tend to the crop and you've got to go hunting, and that may be all you do for a week, you know? And I don't mean this in a disparaging way. I love the notion of that. And I think because of the COVID, a lot of us were kind of romanticized by that seemingly nothingness. And coming from a, quote, city guy, it's just a mystery to me how they can be okay with that slowness. And I want that. I want him to teach me. I want him to teach all of us why it's okay to be a little bit that way. That's it. I don't even know how I'm going to word it with him. So if y'all can help me with that, see me later. But I mean, we can go to yoga retreats and all that stuff, but I get to talk with a guy who grew up in the swamp next week, and he's not going to be around forever. So what I did when the COVID hit, I dutifully went to a gig that I had booked, and it was in Pennsylvania, and I couldn't get in touch with anybody. And I drove all that way only to find out that the gig wasn't going to happen. And while I was sitting out in front of the venue, my buddy sent me a little tape of a melody, and I put this song together, and this is called The Theater Marquee. I'm going to leave you with this. Well, there be some letters on the theater marquee, nothing where my name should be. I'll be playing for Lord only knows. Hell, I just suppose I have traveled against the prophecy. Traveling will mean the death of me. I travel for Lord only knows. Hell, I just suppose I play for one guarantee, certain uncertainty. When I fall, I go on with my show. So I play where I must, until gold or until I bust. For Lord only knows, hell, I just suppose I'm gonna love until the loving bury me. Two on the way can carry me. I love until Lord only knows. Hell, I just suppose I'm gonna live until the liberty comes for me. I ain't gonna I'll beg for mercy. I'll love until Lord only knows. Hell, I just suppose ain't no lights on no stage. Holds a candle up to my babe. She shines through highs and through lows. She says play where you must, until gold or until we bust. For Lord only knows, hell, we just suppose. We ain't seen nothing. I believe in being honest with my audience. I forgot where I am, but I'll just be in the Okefenokee Swamp. Ooh, Eric, give me some showbiz. I'm going down. Be in the bridge of the song. Well, they've written letters on the theater marquee. Sorry, closed indefinitely. I'll be playing for Lord only knows. Hell, I just suppose. Please forgive me for that. It's all right. I hate that. Thank you. Thank you. The name, for those of you who don't know, I'm Walter Parks, and I really appreciate the Vocal Point having me, and I hope I come back. And I will say, that bridge that I forgot, it's a good bridge. It's really one of the I can't even remember. I'm so mad, but that's what CDs are for. That, if you want it done perfectly, Margot has somebody. Thanks again, I'm Walter Parks.